Tax has become the defining issue in this primary and in North Carolina. You and Senator McCain called for suspending the 18.4-cent federal gas tax. Senator Obama calls it a gimmick. He says it's pandering. He says it won't really bring any help to consumers. And he also said this.
Same thing that John McCain's offering on the cheap. That means we're not presenting a truthful response to the challenges that we face in America.
What's your response? He says you're not being truthful.
Well, number one, my proposal is very different from Senator McCain. Senator McCain has said, take off the gas tax, don't pay for it, throw us further into deficit and debt. That is not what I've proposed. What I've proposed is that the oil companies pay the gas tax instead of consumers and drivers this summer. Now, why am I proposing this? Well, number one, I am absolutely convinced that these record profits of the oil companies are a result of a number of factors beyond supply and demand. I think there's been market manipulation. In fact, an ExxonMobil official testifying under oath before the House of Representatives committee said that if it were just market factors, then the price of oil would be like $50 or $55 a barrel. We know that there's market manipulation going on, so I would launch an investigation if I were president right now by the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission. I would also quit buying oil for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We're 97% full. We don't need to keep buying it at this high prices, and I would release some. I would begin to go directly at OPEC. I think it's been 25 years where we've, largely just been at the mercy of the OPEC countries. But this gas tax issue, to me, is very real because I am meeting people across Indiana and North Carolina who drive for a living, who commute long distances, who would save money if the oil companies paid this $8 billion this summer instead of it coming out of the pockets of consumers.
Economists say that's not going to happen. They say this is going to go straight into the profits of the oil companies. They're not going to actually lower their prices. And the two top leaders in the House are against it. Nearly every editorial board and economist in the country has come out against it. Even a supporter of yours, Paul Krugman of the New York Times, calls it pointless and disappointing. Can you name one economist, a credible economist, who supports this suspension?
Well, George, I think we've been, for the last 7 years, seeing a tremendous amount of government power and elite opinion basically behind policies that haven't worked well for the middle class and hardworking Americans. From the moment I started this campaign, I've said that I am absolutely determined that we're going to reverse the trends that have been going on in our government and in our political system. Because what I have seen is that the rich have gotten richer. A vast majority, I think something like 90% of the wealth gains over the last 7 years have gone to the top 10% of wage earners in America.
But can you name an economist who thinks this makes sense?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to put my lot in with economists because I know if we did it right, if we actually did it right, if we had a president who used all the tools of the presidency, we would design it in such a way that it would be implemented effectively. Now, look, I have long-term plans too. I mean, it's a misnomer to say this is all that I'm doing. That's not. I have a comprehensive long-term energy plan that would go right at dependence on foreign oil. We've got to undermine this incredible addiction that we have. We use more foreign oil today than we did on 9/11. That is a disaster for America. Also that we've got to move toward more alternative and renewable fuels and get our gas mileage up. Increase those CAFE standards.
But that's one of the problems here. You've already spent, according to our research, the windfall profits tax on this strategic energy fund for renewable energies and alternative energies.
The tax subsidies will go right into that. I'm talking about something temporary this summer. My longer-term plan is, yes, to put an excess profits tax on the oil companies above a certain level of profit that would go in to help us make the transition. But let's step back here a minute, George. It's really odd to me that arguing to give relief to the vast majority of Americans creates this incredible pushback. When the federal government, through the Fed and the Treasury, gave $30 billion in a bailout to Bear Stearns, I didn't hear anybody jump up and say, that's not going according to the market, that's rewarding irresponsible behavior. We got to get out of this mindset where somehow elite opinion is always on the side of doing things that really disadvantage the vast majority of Americans, and get back to looking hard at what we're going to do to stop the housing crisis. You know, for months now I've been saying we need a moratorium on home foreclosures and we need to freeze interest rates. I think that would help us stem what's happening in not just the housing market, but the general decline in the economy. Well, we can't get that through the Congress either. And on health care, on so many of these issues where costs have gone up, where people are really feeling squeezed, there just doesn't seem to be an understanding about what people are going through.
Let me go to one of the voters who's feeling squeezed. Kara Glennon is here. Kara is a Democrat. She's supporting Obama. I think you've contributed $25 to him. What's your question on the gas tax?
I have. Senator Clinton, I actually make less than $25,000 a year, so talking about gas prices is not academic for me. I really do feel pain at the pump. However, I do feel pandered to when you talk about suspending the gas tax. I don't think that it's really a reasonable plan. And call me crazy, but I actually listen to economists because I think that they know what they've studied. You say that you have both a short and a long-term plan for our energy consumption. However, since a suspension of the gas tax would encourage continued overconsumption, which could possibly cancel out any price savings and also undermine our efforts to curb global warming, and your long-term plan includes trying to, say, curb global warming, don't you feel that these two plans are in conflict?
No, and let me stand up because I can see you better from this angle. You know, actually, I'm glad you asked this question because I want to make it very clear that we're talking about short-term relief and a long-term plan. And I have a very comprehensive long-term plan to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, increase the mileage of our automobiles, and to do it in a way that will push us forward as a leader in the world again, which we have not been, on the issue of global warming. And I invite everyone to go to my website, hillaryclinton.com, and read about it. But if you are driving, on average in America this summer, you'll save, according to the Department of Energy figures, about $70. If you are a long-distance commuter, and a lot of people in Indiana and North Carolina are, if you are a truck driver who depends upon your truck for your living, you're going to save a lot more. In fact, truckers will save about $2 billion in fuel costs. You see, I really believe we've got to start right now demonstrating a willingness to take on these oil companies. You know, I voted against the big oil giveaway in the 2005 energy bill. My opponent voted for it. I'm on record of taking on the oil companies, and I think having a good debate like we're having right now in this campaign helps to lay the groundwork for what we're going to need to do.
Senator Clinton, let me bring this back to Senator Obama and what he said there. He said you weren't being truthful. And that seems to be going straight at